The great chamber of the Galactic Council was silent, but the silence was not calm. It was heavy, cold, and filled with judgment. Thousands of lights floated above, each one representing a different world. In the center of it all stood the human delegates, small in number, but standing tall. Captain Aaron stood among them. His face was calm, but inside, his thoughts were burning. He looked around at the many alien leaders seated in high circles. Their eyes, some glowing, some dark, some hidden behind masks, were all fixed on him and his people. At the highest platform, the council speaker rose slowly. His voice echoed across the chamber. Humanity has been judged. A soft murmur spread through the crowd. For years, your kind has shown aggression, expansion, and defiance. You do not follow balance. You do not accept control. You bring instability wherever you go. Commander Vale stood beside Aaron. His fists were tight, but he said nothing. He knew speaking now would change nothing. The speaker continued, "The council has reached a final decision. Humanity is to be removed from all central systems. You will be exiled beyond the outer rim." The words hit like a shockwave. Some humans in the chamber lowered their heads. Others looked angry. But Aaron remained still. Your access to trade routes, shared technology, and protected space will be revoked. You will leave within one standard cycle. A pause followed. If you refuse, force will be used. The chamber fell into complete silence. Aaron finally stepped forward. His boots echoed on the smooth floor. Every eye followed him. "You call us dangerous," he said, his voice steady. "But we only did what every species here once did. We survived. We grew. We fought when we had to." No one interrupted him. "You fear us because we do not bend easily, because we do not wait quietly while others decide our fate." The speaker's voice turned cold. "Your words only prove our point." Aaron gave a small nod. "Maybe. But remember this. Exile does not mean the end." Commander Vale stepped forward beside him. "We will leave," he said, "but we will not forget." The council speaker raised his hand. "This session is over." Guards moved in. The humans were escorted out of the chamber. Outside, the massive space station was busy, but the mood had changed. News had already spread. Other species watched the humans as they passed, some with fear, some with relief, and some with quiet curiosity. Aaron and Vale walked side by side in silence for a while. Finally, Vale spoke. "They think this will break us." Aaron looked out at the stars through a large viewing window. Countless ships moved through space, following routes humans would no longer be allowed to use. "They don't understand us," Aaron said quietly. Vale gave a small, grim smile. "Good." Within hours, human fleets across the galaxy received the order. Return. Leave. Abandon all claim systems. There was no time to argue. On distant colonies, families packed what they could. Cities that had taken decades to build were left behind. Stations were shut down. Ships filled the skies. Some cried. Some were angry. Some refused to believe it. But the council fleets made sure there was no mistake. They watched. They waited. And humans moved. Days later, a massive convoy of human ships gathered at the edge of known space. Old cargo ships, military vessels, colony transports, all moving together. The stars ahead were dim. The maps were incomplete. This was the dead zone, a place no one wanted. Commander Vale stood on the bridge of one of the largest ships. "All fleets are in position," he reported. Captain Aaron stood beside him, looking at the dark space ahead. Behind them was everything humanity had built. Ahead of them was nothing. "Signal all ships," Aaron said. Vale nodded and gave the command. Across thousands of ships, a single message was broadcast. "Move forward." Engines roared to life. One by one, the ships began to enter the unknown. As they crossed the invisible line, many felt it. The moment of separation. No more protection. No more allies. No more place in the galaxy. Only themselves. On the bridge, a young officer spoke quietly. "Sir, what happens now?" Aaron did not turn. His eyes remained on the darkness ahead. "Now," he said slowly, "we survive." Vale crossed his arms. And after that? There was a long pause. Aaron's voice became harder. After that we rise. Far behind them, the Galactic Council returned to its normal business. Trade resumed. Meetings continued. The humans were already being forgotten. To them, the problem was solved. Humanity was gone. But deep in the cold, silent region of space, the human fleet continued forward. They were not broken. They were not finished. And in the quiet darkness, something began to grow. Not just survival. Not just anger. But a promise. A promise that one day they would return. And when they did, the galaxy would remember why humanity was feared. The dead zone was not a place meant for life. The stars were far apart, cold, and weak. Many systems had no planets, and those that did were often broken, frozen, or filled with dangerous radiation. There were no trade routes here, no friendly signals, no help. Only silence. The human fleet moved slowly through this empty region. Ships stayed close together, like a group trying not to get lost in darkness. Supplies were limited, and every decision mattered. Captain Aaron stood on the command deck, watching the latest reports. His face looked calm, but the situation was getting worse each day. "We lost another cargo ship," an officer said quietly. Aaron turned. "What happened?" "Engine failure. They didn't have enough spare parts." The crew was evacuated, but the ship had to be abandoned. Aaron closed his eyes for a moment. That was the third ship this week. Commander Vale stepped forward. "We can't keep going like this. We are using more than we can replace." Aaron nodded. "I know." Food was becoming a serious problem. Water had to be recycled again and again. Even oxygen systems were under pressure. Every small failure felt like a step closer to disaster. On one of the lower decks, Engineer Leo worked with a small team. Sparks flew as they repaired an old machine taken from a damaged ship. "This won't last long," one of the workers said. Leo wiped sweat from his face. "It doesn't need to last long. It just needs to work." He checked the system again. It was unstable, but it would give them more power for a few days. That was how life had become. Nothing was permanent. Everything was temporary. Days turned into weeks. The fleet finally reached a system with a weak star and several large asteroid fields. Scans showed small amounts of useful minerals. It wasn't much, but it was something. Aaron made the decision quickly. "We stop here. Begin resource collection." Ships spread out carefully. Mining teams were sent into the asteroid fields. It was dangerous work. Some asteroids were unstable. Others moved in strange patterns. Still, humans adapted. They always did. Commander Vale watched as young recruits trained in low-gravity areas. Many of them had never known war before Exile. Now, they had no choice. "They need to be ready," Vale said. An officer beside him nodded. "For what?" Vale's eyes hardened. "For anything." At first, the mining results were slow. The materials were rough and hard to process. But Engineer Leo refused to give up. One day, while scanning a dense cluster of asteroids, his team found something unusual. "Wait, scan that again," Leo said. The screen showed a deeper reading, hidden layers beneath the surface. "This isn't normal rock," one of the workers said. Leo's eyes widened slightly. "No, but it's better." They moved closer and began a deeper scan. Rare metals, energy-rich crystals, resources far more valuable than anything they had seen so far. The news spread quickly through the fleet. For the first time since Exile, hope returned. Captain Aaron visited the site personally. He looked at the floating asteroids, now surrounded by human mining ships. "How much?" he asked. Leo smiled faintly. "Enough to keep us alive and maybe more." Aaron nodded slowly. "Then we protect the system." Work began immediately. Mining stations were built directly onto larger asteroids. Old ships were taken apart to create new structures. Every piece of metal was used carefully. Humans stopped thinking in terms of comfort. They thought in terms of survival. But not everything was easy. Arguments broke out among some groups. Stress, hunger, and fear were still there. Some people blamed the leaders. Others blamed the council. Commander Vale dealt with these problems directly. We don't have time to fight each other, he told a group of angry workers. Out here, we either stand together or we disappear. Slowly, people understood. Unity was not a choice anymore. It was necessary. As weeks passed, the fleet changed. Ships that were once weak and damaged were repaired. New tools were created from the mined resources. Energy systems improved. For the first time, they were not just surviving. They were building. One night, Aaron stood alone, looking out at the growing network of lights across the asteroid field. Small stations, moving ships, working systems. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. Commander Vale joined him. We found more clusters, Vale said. This region may have more resources than we thought. Aaron allowed himself a small smile. Then this dead zone isn't so dead after all. Vale crossed his arms. What are you thinking? Aaron looked at the stars beyond the system. We were sent here to fade away. He paused. But if we can survive here, if we can grow here. Vale finished the thought. Then we can grow anywhere. Behind them, the human fleet continued its work. Machines moved. People worked. Hope slowly returned. The galaxy believed humanity had been thrown into nothing. But in that nothing, something strong was forming. Not just a group trying to survive, but a force learning to endure, adapt, and rebuild. And deep within the growing system, a new idea began to take shape. This was no longer just about survival. This was the beginning of something greater. Something the galaxy had not expected. Something it was not ready for. The dead zone was still cold and dangerous, but it was no longer silent. Where there was once darkness, now there were lights. Small stations floated between the asteroids. Ships moved in careful patterns. Machines worked without rest. Humanity was changing the emptiness around them. They were no longer just surviving. They were rebuilding. Captain Aaron stood inside a newly built command station. It was not large or beautiful, but it was strong. Every wall, every system, was made with one purpose: efficiency. A large display showed the progress of the fleet. Mining output has increased by 30%, an officer reported. Energy reserves are stable. For the first time, we have extra. Aaron nodded. Good. Save it. We don't waste anything. That had become the rule. Nothing was wasted. Not time. Not energy. Not materials. Everything had value. Engineer Leo had become one of the most important people in the fleet. Inside a workshop filled with tools and broken parts, he worked on something new. It did not look like the old human ships. It was smaller, sharper, and built with a different design. Commander Vale walked in, watching carefully. This is the new model? Leo nodded without looking up. Yes. Faster. Stronger. Uses less energy. Vale crossed his arms. And weapons. Leo paused for a moment. Better. Vale gave a small smile. That's what I like to hear. The old ships had been built for peace, trade, and travel. These new ships were different. They were built for survival in the worst conditions. And, if needed, for war. Training had also changed. Commander Vale pushed the soldiers harder every day. There were no easy lessons anymore. No comfort. No shortcuts. In a low-gravity training zone, a group of young recruits moved through a combat exercise. Their movements were fast, controlled, and silent. Again, Vale shouted. One recruit fell behind, breathing heavily. Sir, we've done this 5 times. Vale stepped closer, his voice cold. Out there, you don't get 5 chances. The recruit said nothing and got back into position. Again, Vale repeated. They moved once more. Faster this time. Better. Slowly, a new kind of human force was being created. Stronger. Sharper. More disciplined. Back in the command station, Aaron studied reports from deep space scouts. Small ships had been sent beyond their system, quietly exploring nearby regions. Any signs of other species? Aaron asked. The officer shook his head. Nothing yet. It's all empty. Aaron leaned back slightly. Good. For now, being alone was an advantage. No enemies. No threats. Time to grow. But Aaron knew that would not last forever. Weeks turned into months. The asteroid system became something more. Stations connected together, forming a network. Ships moved in and out with purpose. New structures were built from the resources they had found. What was once a temporary stop had become a base. A home. One day, Leo called for a full system test of the new ship. The small vessel floated outside the station, surrounded by larger ships watching closely. "Ready?" Leo asked over the comm. "Ready," the pilot replied. "Begin." The ship's engines activated. In a flash, it moved forward, faster than anything they had before. Gasps were heard across the command channels. Speed is stable. Energy use is low. Turning control is perfect. The ship moved through the asteroid field with ease, avoiding obstacles like it was nothing. Commander Vale watched carefully. Impressive. Aaron nodded slowly. Very. Then came the final test. "Weapons ready," the pilot said. A distant asteroid was marked as the target. "Fire." A bright beam shot out from the ship. It hit the asteroid and broke through it completely. The rocks split apart. Silence followed. Then cheers filled the comm channels. For the first time since Exile, humans had something new. Something powerful. Later, in a quiet room, Aaron, Vale, and Leo met together. "This changes everything," Vale said. Leo nodded. "We can build more. Better ones." Aaron looked at both of them. "Not too fast." Vale frowned slightly. "Why wait?" Aaron stood and walked toward the window, looking out at the growing human system. "We are stronger now," he said. "But we are still small." He turned back to them. "If the galaxy finds us too soon, we lose everything." Leo spoke softly. "So we stay hidden?" Aaron nodded. "For now." There was a moment of silence. Then Vale spoke again. "And later?" Aaron's eyes hardened. "Later, we won't hide." Outside, ships continued to move. Workers continued to build. Soldiers continued to train. Humanity was no longer weak. They were no longer lost. They were becoming something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. From ashes, they had risen. From exile, they had learned. And in the silent darkness of the dead zone, humanity was preparing, not just to survive, but for something far greater. Something that would one day shake the entire galaxy. The dead zone was no longer empty. It still looked dark and silent from a distance, but deep inside, something powerful was growing. The human system had expanded far beyond a simple mining base. It had become a hidden network of stations, shipyards, and defense points. And at the center of it all, a secret was taking shape. A fleet. Captain Aaron stood in a quiet observation room, looking at a large projection of space. Small markers showed different human locations, mining zones, training areas, and hidden stations. But one section was marked differently. Restricted. Commander Vale entered the room. "They are ready," he said. Aaron nodded once. "Then it's time." Far from the main stations, deep inside a dense asteroid cluster, something massive was hidden. At first glance, the area looked like nothing but broken rocks. But as a signal was sent, parts of the asteroid field began to move. Large sections slowly opened. And, behind them, ships. Dozens of them. Sleek, dark, silent. The hidden fleet. These ships were unlike anything humanity had built before. They were designed not just for speed or power, but for invisibility. Their surfaces absorbed light. Their engines produced almost no detectable signal. Even their heat was carefully controlled. From a distance, they did not exist. Engineer Leo stood inside one of the shipyards, watching the final checks. "Stealth systems are stable," a technician reported. "Energy cores running at full efficiency. Weapons are active and ready." Leo allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Keep everything quiet. No mistakes." Months of work had gone into this fleet. Every piece of material had been carefully chosen. Every design tested again and again. These ships were not made for show. They were made for something much more important: the future. Commander Vale walked along the main deck of one of the ships. The crew stood ready, calm and focused. You all know why you are here, Vale said. We were cast out, left to die. He paused, letting the words settle. But we didn't die. The crew remained silent, listening. We learned. We adapted. And now we are stronger than ever. A young pilot looked up. Sir, what is our mission? Vale's eyes hardened slightly. For now, we watch. Back in the command station, Aaron gave the final order. Activate the fleet. Across the hidden shipyard, engines came to life. Quiet, controlled, almost invisible. One by one, the ships began to move. They left the asteroid field slowly, carefully, like shadows slipping into darkness. The first mission was simple. Scout beyond the dead zone. A small group of ships moved ahead, leaving the safety of human-controlled space for the first time since Exile. The stars grew brighter as they moved closer to known regions of the galaxy. Old navigation systems updated slowly. Familiar star maps began to appear again. One of the crew members whispered, "We're really going back." Inside the lead ship, Captain Aaron stood behind the pilot. "Stay at the edge," he said. "We do not enter their space fully." The pilot nodded. "Yes, sir." Sensors scanned everything. And soon they found it, a trade route. Ships from other species moved along it, unaware of what was watching them. Large cargo vessels. Escort ships. Normal activity. Everything looked peaceful. Normal. Like humanity had never existed. Commander Vale watched the feed carefully. They forgot us. Aaron's voice was calm. No, they dismissed us. There was a difference. The human ships stayed hidden. Their systems worked perfectly. No signals were detected. No alarms were triggered. They were ghosts. Watching. Learning. Record everything, Aaron ordered. Ship types, weapon systems, patrol patterns. The crew worked quickly. For the first time, humanity was seeing the galaxy again. And the galaxy had no idea. After several hours, the fleet pulled back. No contact. No mistakes. Mission complete. Back in the dead zone, the ships returned safely to the hidden base. Reports were delivered immediately. They are weaker than we expected, Vale said during the meeting. Aaron looked at the data. Not weaker. Comfortable. Leo nodded. They haven't changed. They didn't need to. Vale gave a slight smile. That's their weakness. There was a long silence. Then Aaron spoke. We stay hidden a little longer. Vale looked at him. And then? Aaron's eyes focused on the projection of the galaxy. Then we remind them. Outside, the hidden fleet remained silent, waiting in the darkness. Stronger than before. Faster than before. Invisible. The galaxy believed humanity was gone. But now, humanity could see everything. Every weakness. Every mistake. Every opportunity. And soon, they would no longer just watch. They would act. In the cold shadows of space, the hidden fleet waited. Not as survivors. Not as exiles. But as something far more dangerous. Something the galaxy had completely forgotten. Hunters. The hidden fleet had watched the galaxy in silence for weeks. They studied trade routes, patrol paths, and communication signals. Every movement was recorded. Every pattern was understood. Humanity was learning fast. And now, for the first time since Exile, something unexpected happened. They were no longer alone. A small human scout ship moved quietly near the edge of a trade route. Its stealth systems were active, hiding it from most scans. Inside, the crew worked calmly, checking data and observing passing ships. Traffic is normal, the pilot said. No changes. Captain Aaron stood behind him, watching the screens. Stay alert. We are closer than before. Commander Vale leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Too close. Before anyone could respond, an alert flashed across the system. Contact detected. The room went still. Where? Aaron asked. Behind us, fast-moving object. The crew turned as the sensors updated. It was a patrol ship. The alien ship was smaller than a war vessel, but faster than most cargo ships. It moved directly toward the human scout. They're scanning, the officer said. Aaron's expression did not change. Can they see us? The officer hesitated. Partial reading, something is off. I think they detected a disturbance. Vale pushed himself forward. We need to leave. Now. But before the pilot could react, a signal came through. Unknown vessel. A sharp voice spoke. Identify yourself immediately. The human crew exchanged looks. They know something is here, Vale said quietly. Aaron thought for a moment. Hold position. Vale frowned. That's risky. Aaron's voice stayed calm. We need to understand how much they can detect. The alien ship moved closer. Final warning. The voice came again. Power down your systems and prepare for inspection. The crew grew tense. One officer whispered, Inspection, they think we're smugglers or pirates. Vale gave a small, cold smile. They don't expect us. The alien ship suddenly fired a scanning pulse. The human ship flickered slightly on the sensors. They see us, the pilot said. Locking weapons, another officer shouted. The alien patrol had made its decision. Attack. Evasive action. Vale ordered. The human ship moved instantly, faster than the alien expected. The first shot missed, passing through empty space. Return fire? The pilot asked. Aaron paused for a single second. Then he nodded. Yes. The human ship turned sharply. Target locked. Fire. A bright beam shot forward, precise and controlled. It struck the alien ship directly. The result was immediate. The alien vessel lost control, spinning slightly. Systems failed one by one. Direct hit, the officer said. The room went quiet. No one had expected it to be that easy. Second shot ready, the pilot said. Aaron watched the damaged ship on the screen. Hold, he said. The alien ship tried to stabilize, but it was too late. Another small explosion broke through its side. It went dark. Silent. Drifting. No one spoke for a few seconds. Commander Vale finally broke the silence. That was fast. Leo's voice came through the comm system from another station. Our weapons are stronger than we thought. Aaron nodded slowly. Or, they are weaker than we remember. The crew looked at the drifting alien ship. What do we do now? One officer asked. Vale answered before Aaron could speak. We leave. Now. Aaron agreed. Set course back to base. Full stealth. The human ship disappeared into the darkness, leaving the damaged patrol behind. Back in the dead zone, the report was delivered immediately. The room was filled with quiet tension. So it begins, Vale said. Aaron looked at the battle data. Every detail was clear. Speed advantage. Weapons superiority. Better control. They had changed. A lot. Leo leaned forward. If one scout ship can do this. Vale finished the thought. Then a fleet can do much more. But not everyone was comfortable. One of the officers spoke carefully. Sir, if they find that ship, they will know someone attacked it. Aaron nodded. Yes. They may start searching. Aaron looked around the room. That was always going to happen. There was a moment of silence. Then Vale spoke. We have two choices now. He looked at Aaron. We go back into hiding, or we take the next step. Aaron walked slowly toward the main display. The galaxy map appeared in front of him. So many systems. So many targets. So many memories. They exiled us, Aaron said quietly. They thought we would disappear. He turned to face the others. But today, we proved something. He paused. Then his voice became stronger. We are no longer the same. Vale gave a small nod. So, what's the plan? Aaron looked at the map again. His eyes stopped on a small, distant outpost near the edge of Council space. Not important. Not heavily defended. But close. His voice was calm. We test them again. Outside, the hidden fleet waited in silence. For the first time since Exile, blood had been spilled. Not human. Alien. And something had changed. Not just in their technology. Not just in their strength. But in their mindset. They were no longer just survivors. They were no longer just hiding. They had taken their first step back into the galaxy. And the next step would not be quiet. The room was quiet, but the air felt heavy. A single target glowed on the large display in front of Captain Aaron. It was a small outpost near the edge of Council space. Not very important. Not heavily protected. Easy to ignore.
Perfect.
Commander Vale stood beside him, studying the same image. Minimal defenses, he said. One patrol ship, light station weapons, small crew. Engineer Leo added. Energy shields are weak. Our new weapons will break them quickly. Aaron nodded slowly.
Good.
Then we move. The plan was simple.
Fast. Silent. Clean.
No long battle. No warning.
Just a single strike.
The hidden fleet prepared in silence. Only a small group of ships would go. Too many ships would increase the risk of detection. 3 attack vessels. 1 support ship. That was enough. Inside one of the attack ships, the crew sat ready. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were focused. This was different from the scout mission. This was not observation. This was war. Commander Vale walked through the ship, stopping in front of the crew. You all know the mission, he said. We go in, we strike, we leave. No delays. No mistakes. A pilot asked, What about survivors, sir? Vale's face became hard. No survivors. The room fell silent. Everyone understood. Moments later, the ships moved. They slipped out of the dead zone like shadows, their stealth systems active. No signals. No noise. No trace. As they approached the target system, the stars grew brighter. The outpost appeared on the sensors, a small station orbiting a dry planet. Everything looked normal. Quiet. Unaware. Inside the lead ship, Captain Aaron watched the screen. Distance, he asked. Closing in. 2 minutes, the pilot replied. Any detection? None. Vale gave a slight nod. They still don't see us. The ships moved closer. Closer. Still no alarms. Still no reaction. Target in range, the weapons officer said. Aaron took a slow breath. Begin. The attack started without warning. Bright beams of energy shot from the human ships, striking the outpost directly. The shields flickered for a second, then broke. Direct hit. Shields are down. Return fire detected. The outpost tried to respond. Small defense turrets activated, firing blindly into space. But they were too slow. Too weak. The second wave of human fire hit the station's core systems. Explosions spread across the surface. Lights flickered. Power dropped. Patrol ship launching, an officer shouted. A small alien ship rushed out from behind the station, moving fast. Intercept, the pilot asked. Vale stepped forward. Take it out. The human ship turned sharply. Target locked. Fire. 1 shot. That was all it took. The alien patrol ship exploded into pieces. Back at the outpost, systems were failing one by one. Life support is collapsing. Communication signals trying to send. Block them, Aaron ordered. Leo's voice came through the comm, signal jam active. No message is getting out. The station was now helpless. Fires burned across its surface. Sections broke apart, drifting into space. Final strike ready, the weapons officer said. Aaron watched the screen. For a moment, everything felt still. Then he spoke. End it. The final shot hit the center of the outpost. A massive explosion followed. The station broke apart completely. Silence returned. No survivors. No signal. Nothing left. The entire attack had taken less than 5 minutes. Mission complete, the pilot said quietly. Commander Vale looked at Aaron. Clean and fast. Aaron nodded. Set course. We leave now. The ships turned and disappeared into space once again. No trace. No evidence. Only debris remained. Back in the dead zone, the fleet waited. When the ships returned, the reports spread quickly. A small group gathered in the command station. It's done, Vale said. Aaron looked at the data. Damage, total. Enemy response, ineffective. Time minimal. Leo spoke with quiet excitement. Our ships performed perfectly, Vale added, and they didn't even see us coming. But one officer looked uneasy. Sir, when they find the wreckage, Aaron answered calmly, they will. And then, Aaron looked at the galaxy map. Then they will start asking questions. Vale crossed his arms. And when they find answers? Aaron's eyes became cold. They will realize the truth. There was a long silence in the room. Humanity was no longer hiding in fear. They had taken a step forward. A dangerous step. The first strike had been made.
Clean. Precise.
Final. Out in the galaxy, the destruction of a small outpost might not seem important at first. But it was not just an attack. It was a message. A message written in fire and silence. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had returned. And this time, they were ready for war. At first, no one noticed. A small outpost destroyed at the edge of Council space did not seem important. Systems failed sometimes. Pirates attacked weak targets. Accidents happened. That was what many believed. But then it happened again. Another outpost went silent. No warning. No distress signal. No survivors. Then another. And another. Within weeks, reports began to spread across the Galactic Council. Strange attacks. Fast destruction. No clear enemy. Inside the Great Council chamber, the mood had changed. Leaders who once spoke with calm confidence now argued with sharp voices. "This is not random," one of them said. "These are planned strikes." Another responded, "Pirates do not destroy entire stations without taking anything." A third voice added, "And they do not disappear without a trace." The council's speaker listened carefully. "Then what are we facing?" he asked. No one had a clear answer. Far away, in the silent darkness of the dead zone, humanity watched. Captain Aaron stood before a large display showing multiple systems. Small red marks appeared one by one. Each mark was a successful strike. Commander Vale stood beside him. 5 outposts gone. No survivors. No signals sent. Leo added, "And no one knows it's us." Aaron nodded.
Good.
The attacks had been carefully planned. Small targets. Weak defenses. Far from major systems. Each strike was fast and clean just like the first. The hidden fleet moved like shadows, hitting and vanishing before anyone could respond. But the galaxy was starting to notice. Trade routes began to change. Some ships refused to travel through certain areas. Fear slowly spread. In one system, a group of cargo ships gathered, waiting for escort. "I'm not going through that route," one captain said. "Too many disappearances." Another replied, "We lose time if we wait." The first captain shook his head. Better to lose time than lose everything. Back in the council chamber, the situation grew worse. "We are losing control of the outer systems," a leader said. "Patrol ships are being sent, but they find nothing. Whoever is doing this knows how to stay hidden." The speaker's voice became firm. "Increase patrols. Double defenses on all outer stations." Another leader asked, "And if this continues?" The speaker paused. "Then we prepare for war." At that same moment, deep in human space, a new operation was being planned. This time, it would be different. In the command room, Aaron pointed at several targets. "Not one," he said. "Multiple."
Vale looked at the map.
At the same time, Aaron nodded. "Yes." Leo raised an eyebrow. "That increases risk." "It also increases impact," Aaron replied. The plan was bold. Instead of small, quiet strikes, they would hit several systems at once. Commander Vale smiled slightly. "Now this will get their attention." The fleet prepared again. More ships this time. More coordination. More risk. When the attack began, it shook the outer regions of the galaxy. 3 outposts were hit at the same time. In different systems. Far apart. Explosions lit up the darkness. Stations fell. Patrol ships were destroyed before they could react. For the first time, emergency signals were sent. "Under attack. Unknown enemy. Fast. Too strong. We can't." Then silence. The messages reached the council. And everything changed. "They are coordinated," one leader said, fear clear in his voice. "This is not pirates," another added. "This is an organized force." The speaker stood slowly.
"Find them," he said.
No matter the cost. But finding something that did not want to be seen was not easy. Back in the dead zone, the human fleet returned once more. This time, there was no silence. There was energy. movement.
excitement.
They responded faster this time, Vale said. Aaron nodded. They're waking up. Leo smiled faintly.
Good.
That means they're paying attention. For a moment, the room was quiet. Then Vale spoke again. So, what now? Aaron walked toward the center display. The full map of the galaxy appeared. Bright systems, busy routes, powerful worlds. He looked at it all. Then he spoke. We stop hiding. Vale's eyes sharpened. You mean? Aaron nodded. They know something is out there. Now they need to know who. There was a pause. Then Leo said quietly, that will start a war. Aaron did not look away from the map. It already has. Outside, the fleet moved with new purpose. No longer just shadows. No longer just observers. They had tested the galaxy. They had measured its strength. They had seen its weakness. Now it was time for the galaxy to see them. In the cold darkness of space, a signal was prepared. A message.
Short. Clear.
Impossible to ignore. And when it was sent, the entire galaxy would finally understand. Humanity had returned. And this time, they were not asking for a place. They were taking it. The message spread across the galaxy in seconds. It appeared on trade networks, military channels, and even private systems. No one could block it. No one could stop it. A single line. Humanity has returned. Silence followed. Then confusion. Then fear. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the message played again and again on the central display. Some leaders stared in disbelief. That is not possible, one said. They were exiled. They should be gone. Another spoke with a shaken voice. We forced them into the dead zone. No one survives there. The council speaker remained silent for a long moment. Then he spoke slowly. They survived. Reports began to flood in. Destroyed outposts. Missing patrols. Strange, fast ships. All the signs were now clear. It was them, a leader whispered. All this time. The speaker's voice turned sharp. Prepare all fleets. This is no longer a minor threat. He paused. This is war. Across the galaxy, alarms began to sound. Council fleets were mobilized. Warships left their docks. Defense systems activated across major systems. For the first time in many cycles, the galaxy prepared for a full-scale war. But humanity was already moving. In the dead zone, the hidden fleet was no longer hidden. Ships gathered in large numbers. New designs stood beside older ones. Weapons were active. Engines were ready. Captain Aaron stood at the front of the command deck. Status, he asked. Fleet ready, an officer replied. Multiple groups in position. Commander Vale stood beside him. Targets selected. Outer defense lines first. Engineer Leo added. All systems are stable. Weapons fully charged. Aaron looked at the map.
This was no longer a test.
This was the beginning of something bigger. Begin the operation, he said. Human fleets moved out. Not as small groups. Not as shadows. But as a force. The first battles began at the edges of Council space. Human ships appeared suddenly, attacking patrol fleets and defense stations. Their speed and precision shocked the enemy. Council ships tried to respond, but they were too slow. In one battle, a group of Council warships moved to intercept a human fleet. Target locked, a Council officer shouted. Fire. Energy blasts filled space. But the human ships moved quickly, avoiding most of the attacks. Return fire, Commander Vale ordered. Human weapons struck back. Stronger. More accurate. One Council ship exploded. Then another. The remaining ships tried to retreat. But they were too late. The battle ended in minutes. Across multiple systems, similar fights took place. Human fleets struck fast, then moved on. They did not stay. They did not wait. They fight differently, one Council commander reported. They don't follow normal patterns. Another added. They adapt too quickly. That was the problem. Humanity had learned from Exile. They did not rely on old rules. They created new ones. Commander Vale led ground forces on captured outposts. Human soldiers moved with speed and control. They cleared enemy positions quickly, secured key systems. moved on. In one captured station, a group of alien workers stood in fear. One of them asked quietly, "What will you do to us?" A human soldier looked at them. "Nothing," he said. "You are free." That moment spread quickly. Stories began to move across the galaxy. Humanity was attacking the Council. But they were not destroying everything. They were choosing their targets. Some smaller species began to watch carefully. Some even began to hope. Back in the Council chamber, the situation grew worse. "We are losing outer systems," a leader said. "Our fleets are falling back. They are too fast. We cannot predict them." The speaker stood, his voice filled with tension. "Then we stop reacting." He looked around. "We strike back." A massive Council fleet was prepared. Stronger. Larger. Built for full war. Back in human space, Aaron received the report. "They are gathering their main forces," Vale said. Aaron nodded. "Good." Leo looked surprised. "Good." Aaron's eyes were calm.
Yes.
"Now they are taking us seriously." Vale gave a slight smile. "And now we can test ourselves properly." The room grew quiet. Everyone understood. The war had changed. This was no longer small attacks. No longer hidden strikes. This was open war. Humanity had stepped into the light. They had shown their strength. They had challenged the most powerful force in the galaxy. And now there was no turning back. Outside, fleets moved toward each other. Human ships. Council warships. Two forces. Two futures. The galaxy watched in silence. Because what happened next would decide everything. The war had changed everything. What began as small strikes was now a full-scale conflict spreading across the outer regions of the galaxy. Systems that once ignored the dead zone now burned with fear and chaos. And humanity was advancing. In the command center of the human fleet, Captain Aaron watched the shifting map of the galaxy. One system after another was turning red. "Outer systems are collapsing," an officer reported. "Council defenses are breaking faster than expected." Commander Vale stood nearby, arms crossed. "They are still reacting, not adapting." Leo added, "That's why they are losing." Human fleets moved like storms.
Fast. Precise.
Relentless. They did not stay in one place for long. They attacked, secured key targets, and moved forward before the enemy could fully respond. In one outer system, a Council defense fleet tried to form a blockade. "Hold position," the Council commander ordered. "Do not let them pass." Large warships formed a defensive wall in space. For a moment, it looked strong, stable, impenetrable. Then the human ships arrived.
Silent. Fast.
Too fast. "Contact," a Council officer shouted. Before they could fully react, human ships broke through their formation. Energy beams struck key systems. Shields failed. Engines burned out. "We're losing formation," another officer yelled. "Reinforce the center." But it was too late. Commander Vale watched the battlefield feed from a human ship. "They still think structure will save them," he said. Aaron replied calmly, "Structure means nothing without flexibility." Within minutes, the entire Council blockade fell apart. Ships drifted in space, disabled or destroyed. The system was lost. Elsewhere, similar scenes repeated. Outer colonies fell one by one.
Some tried to resist.
Some tried to escape. But none could stop the human advance. And something unexpected began to happen. Some smaller systems surrendered without fighting. They sent messages. "We do not wish to fight. We accept your terms. We surrender peacefully." Aaron read the reports carefully. Commander Vale frowned. "They are giving up too easily." Leo looked at the data. "They are scared. Not of us, but of the Council." Aaron nodded slowly. Fear changes behavior. On the battlefield, human soldiers noticed something else. Captured Council forces were not always hostile. Some were confused. Some were tired. Some did not even understand why they were fighting. In one captured station, a Council officer spoke to Commander Vale. "You are not what they said," the officer admitted. Vale looked at him. "And what did they say?" "That you were monsters." Vale stayed silent for a moment. Then he said, "We were exiled." The officer looked down. "I see that now." This kind of interaction began to spread. Not everywhere, but enough to matter. Back in council space, panic was growing. "We are losing control of the outer ring," a leader said. "Our fleets cannot hold them back. They are moving too fast." The council speaker stood quietly, listening. Then he spoke. "Then we stopped defending the edges." He turned slowly. "We protect the core worlds." Massive fleets began pulling back, abandoning outer systems, focusing on the center of their power. Aaron saw this shift immediately. "They are retreating," Vale said. Aaron nodded. "Not retreating. Concentrating." Leo looked at the map. "They are preparing for final defense." Commander Vale smiled slightly. "Then we are getting close." Human fleets continued their advance. Outer systems fell completely under human control. Mining stations, trade routes, small colonies, all captured or surrendered. Engineer Leo worked nonstop on improving fleet systems. "We are producing ships faster now," he said. "The captured resources are helping." Aaron responded, "Good. Keep increasing production." But Aaron also knew something important. Winning the outer systems was only the beginning. The real battle was still ahead. In the Council core, the strongest fleets were gathering. Massive warships, advanced defense systems, entire systems prepared for one purpose: to stop humanity. Commander Vale studied the reports. "This is it," he said quietly. "Their strongest line."
Aaron looked at the map.
"The center of the galaxy. Heavily defended. Heavily armed. The outer systems are ours," Vale said. "But the core," Aaron finished the thought, "will cost more." Silence filled the room. Everyone understood. The war was reaching its most dangerous stage. Outside, human fleets gathered at the edge of Council core territory. No longer scattered. No longer testing. United. Focused. Ready. Aaron gave the final order. "We move forward." The fleets began to advance. Slowly at first, then faster. Behind them, the outer systems burned with change. Ahead of them, the heart of the galaxy waited. And for the first time since Exile, humanity was not the hunted. They were the force knocking on the gates of power. The core of the galaxy was no longer calm. For the first time in many cycles, fear had reached the most powerful systems. The Council's inner worlds, once considered untouchable, were now preparing for war. And humanity was already at the gates. Captain Aaron stood on the command deck of the main human flagship. The massive fleet stretched behind him, far beyond what could easily be counted. Ships filled space like a moving shadow. Commander Vale stood nearby, watching the readings. "Core defense fleets are in position," he said. 3 major battle lines. Heavy shields. Advanced weapons. Engineer Leo added, "They have also activated system-wide defense networks. This will not be easy." Aaron nodded slowly. It was never going to be easy. The human fleet moved forward. Not rushing. Not hiding. Just advancing. The first contact with the core defense line happened near a dense star system surrounded by fortified stations. Council warships formed a massive defensive wall. "This is where we stop them," a council commander said firmly. "Hold the line at all costs." Then the human fleet appeared. Silent. Wide formation. Perfect coordination. "Enemy contact," a council officer shouted. "Fire everything." Energy beams lit up space like lightning storms. The core defense line unleashed its full power. But the human ships moved differently. They did not fight in straight lines. They did not hold fixed positions. They moved like flowing water. Fast, unpredictable, and constantly changing. Commander Vale watched the battlefield carefully. "They still rely on patterns," he said. "We don't." Aaron replied calmly. "Break their patterns." Human ships surged forward. First wave hit the outer defense stations. Explosions followed immediately. Shields collapsed. Weapons failed. "Outer stations down," a council officer yelled. "Reinforce the center." But the reinforcement never arrived in time. Human strike teams moved through the gaps.
Fast.
Precise. Relentless. Inside the council fleet, confusion spread. "They are everywhere." We cannot lock targets. They are breaking our formation. The council commander shouted orders, but the battlefield was changing too quickly. What they had prepared for years was collapsing in minutes. On the human flagship, Aaron remained calm. Second wave, he ordered. Leo activated a new system. From behind the main fleet, specialized ships advanced. Their weapons were different, stronger, focused. A concentrated energy beam struck the core defense shield of a major station. For a moment it held. Then it cracked. Then it shattered. The station exploded into fragments. Commander Vale gave a short nod. That's one down. Aaron said nothing. There were many more. The battle spread across the entire system. Multiple fronts. Multiple fleets. Chaos filled space. Council ships tried to regroup, but human coordination was too strong. Every time they formed a defense, humans found a weak point. Every time they adjusted, humans changed tactics. This is impossible, a council officer said in disbelief. They're learning in real time. Inside another council command ship, panic grew. We are losing the second line. The third line is under attack. They are reaching the inner gates. The council speaker received the reports in silence. Then he spoke. Deploy the final defense fleet. The strongest council forces began moving. Massive warships. Elite commanders. The last barrier before the core worlds. Back in human command, Vale saw the movement. They're bringing everything, he said. Aaron nodded. Good. Leo looked at him. Good. Aaron's eyes stayed fixed on the display.
Yes.
Now it ends faster. The final battle line formed near the core gateway. Two massive fleets faced each other. One built over generations of control. One built from exile and survival. Silence fell across the battlefield for a moment. Even the weapons paused. Then the council commander spoke. This is where it ends. Aaron stepped forward. No, he said calmly. This is where it begins. The order was given, and war returned to space. The final defense line fired everything at once. The human fleet responded instantly. Explosions filled the void. Entire sections of space lit up like burning stars. Ships were lost on both sides. But the human fleet kept advancing. Commander Vale led a direct assault on a key defense point. Push forward, he ordered. Human ships broke through enemy lines. One by one, council defenses began to fail. Stations collapsed. Warships drifted in silence. The core gate is exposed, a human officer shouted. Aaron watched closely. The path to the core worlds was open. For the first time, the council's inner systems were vulnerable. Commander Vale spoke quietly. We've done it. Aaron replied, not yet. He looked at the glowing heart of the galaxy. The final stage was ahead. The core worlds, he said. That is where this ends. Human fleets regrouped. Damaged. Tired. But unbroken. And they moved forward. Into the heart of the galaxy. The Council's strongest defense had fallen. And the war had reached its final stage. The core worlds were no longer safe. And humanity was no longer knocking. They were entering. The core worlds of the Galactic Council had never known fear like this. For generations, they believed their capital systems were untouchable, protected by the strongest fleets, the best weapons, and endless layers of defense. But now, those beliefs were breaking apart. Humanity's fleet had entered the inner region, and nothing was stopping them. Inside the Council capital system, alarms echoed through massive stations. Civilian ships were ordered to evacuate. Military fleets rushed into formation. Panic spread through every level of command. This is impossible, one council leader shouted. They broke through the outer lines. Another replied, and the inner fleets are falling too fast. The council speaker stood in silence, watching the holographic map of collapsing defenses. In deep space, Captain Aaron stood on the bridge of the human flagship. The final approach had begun. The core capital system was directly ahead. Commander Vale stood beside him. Final defense fleets are deploying, he said. This is their strongest force. Engineer Leo added. All systems are stable, but they are preparing everything they have left. Aaron nodded slowly. Then we finish it. The final battle began near the Council Capital Ring, a massive structure surrounding the central world. Thousands of warships formed a defensive barrier. A council commander spoke with urgency. Hold the line. Do not let them reach the capital world. Then the human fleet arrived. Quiet at first, then overwhelming. Enemy contact. A council officer shouted. Fire everything. Energy weapons lit up the entire system. Space became a battlefield of light and explosions. But humanity did not stop. They moved forward through the fire. Not blindly, not slowly, but with precision. Commander Vale led the first strike wave. Break their center formation. Human ships surged into the defensive line. Their weapons hit key targets, command ships, communication hubs, shield generators. Center line collapsing, a council officer yelled. Reform the formation, but there was no time. Human fleets split into multiple attack groups. Each group targeted a different weakness. The council defense, though powerful, could not respond fast enough. They are everywhere, a council commander shouted. We cannot track them, another officer added. They are breaking our entire system coordination. On the human flagship, Aaron watched the battle calmly. They built one strong wall, he said. We don't fight walls. Leo looked at the data. We dismantle them piece by piece. Aaron nodded. Exactly. The battle intensified. Council ships fought desperately, but human tactics kept changing. Every defense was countered. Every move was predicted. Then something unexpected happened. Some council ships began to retreat. Not all, but enough to weaken the formation. They are breaking, Vale said. Aaron replied, not breaking. Losing belief. Inside the council capital, panic reached the highest level. Our fleets are collapsing. The capital ring's shields are failing. They are approaching the inner world. The council speaker finally moved. Prepare evacuation protocols, he said quietly. A leader turned in shock. Evacuation? The capital? The speaker nodded. We have lost control of the outer defense. Now we protect what remains. But it was too late for control. The human fleet had already reached the capital ring. Commander Vale led the assault on the main shield generator. Target that structure, he ordered. Human ships fired concentrated energy beams. The shield generator flickered.
Once. Twice.
Then failed completely. A massive section of the capital ring exploded, breaking the defensive barrier. That's it, a human officer shouted. The capital's shield is down. Inside the council fleet, despair spread. They have breached the core. There is no defense left. The council commander gave a final order. For the council, fight until the end. But the end was already written. Human ships pushed into the inner zone. Council fleets tried one final resistance, but it collapsed quickly under coordinated attacks. One by one, council warships fell silent. Some were destroyed. Some surrendered. Some simply stopped fighting. In the capital chamber, the speaker stood alone now. Around him, reports showed total system failure. A leader asked quietly, "What happens now?" The speaker looked at the map. The human fleet was at the doorstep. He answered slowly, "Now we face them." Outside, the final doors of the capital world opened. Human ships entered the heart of the galaxy. Commander Vale spoke softly over the comms. "We are inside." Aaron nodded. "Then it ends here." The Council's strongest defenses were gone. Their fleets were broken. Their systems were falling apart. The galaxy had changed forever. And at the center of it all, humanity stood ready. Not as exiles. Not as survivors. But as conquerors at the gates of the final throne. The capital world of the Galactic Council was silent. Not peaceful silence, but the kind that comes after a storm destroys everything. Smoke drifted above broken defense stations. Disabled warships floated in orbit. Communication networks were down across most of the system. The most powerful government in the galaxy had fallen, and humanity stood at the center of it all. Captain Aaron watched the main display from the human flagship. The Council capital world filled the screen below, large, bright, and now completely exposed. Commander Vale stood beside him. "All resistance has stopped," he said. No active fleets remain. Engineer Leo checked the final reports. Systems are under full human control. No more enemy coordination. For a moment, no one spoke. The war was over. But it did not feel like victory yet. Human landing ships moved slowly toward the capital surface.
There was no fighting now.
No defense. Only surrendering signals and broken systems trying to shut down safely. Inside the capital city, council leaders gathered in the central chamber. They looked tired, afraid, and uncertain. The council speaker stood in front of them, his voice weaker than before. "They are here," he said. No one replied. Everyone already knew. On the surface, human forces landed. Commander Vale led the first group. Soldiers stepped out carefully, weapons ready, but not firing. The city around them was massive, built over generations of power and control. Now it was quiet.
Too quiet.
A council officer approached slowly, raising his hands. "We surrender," he said. "There will be no resistance." Vale studied him for a moment. Then he lowered his weapon slightly. "Stay where you are," he said calmly. "No one will be harmed if you do not resist." Elsewhere in the city, similar scenes unfolded. Human soldiers took control of key locations, communication centers, defense grids, transport hubs. Everything was secured step by step. In orbit, Captain Aaron continued monitoring the situation. "Any remaining fleets?" he asked. "None," the officer replied. "All systems are either destroyed or surrendered." Aaron nodded slowly. It was done. But what came next mattered more than the battle. Inside the council chamber, Aaron entered with a small group. Commander Vale and Leo followed behind him. The remaining council leaders stood silently as humans walked in. No weapons were raised. No orders were shouted. Only tension remained. The council's speaker stepped forward. "You have won," he said quietly. "What now?" Aaron looked at him for a long moment. Then he spoke. "This ends the way it should have begun," he said. "With understanding." The council leaders exchanged confused looks. Vale added, "You exiled us because you feared what you did not understand." Leo continued, "And that fear led to war." A leader from the council spoke nervously. "We thought you were dangerous." Aaron replied calmly, "We became dangerous because you pushed us to survive alone." Silence followed. The speaker lowered his head. "So, what happens to us?" he asked. Aaron turned toward the large window overlooking the capital world. "The galaxy does not need another empire built on fear," he said. He paused. "It needs balance." Vale stepped forward. "The council is finished. But the galaxy is not." Leo looked at the system's map. Many worlds are still waiting. Many species are still afraid. Aaron nodded. "Then we do not rule them," he said. "We guide them." There was a long silence. The idea was unexpected. Not destruction. Not revenge. Something different. The council speaker asked quietly, "And if we refuse?" Vale answered without hesitation. "You already lost the ability to refuse." But Aaron raised his hand. "No more fighting," he said. He looked at the broken chamber, then at the tired leaders. "We end the cycle here." Slowly, agreements were formed. Not all at once. Not easily. But the message was clear. Resistance was over. The council as it once existed would no longer rule. A new system would be created. Outside, the human fleet remained in orbit. Silent. Watching. Waiting. Days passed. Systems were repaired. Communication lines reopened. Surviving fleets were gathered and disarmed. Across the galaxy, news spread quickly. The council had fallen. Humanity had returned. And a new order was beginning. But this new order was not what the galaxy expected. No single ruler. No endless control. No forced obedience. Instead, messages were sent to every system. "We are not your masters. We are not your enemies. We are proof that survival creates strength." On the human flagship, Aaron stood alone once more, looking out at the stars. Commander Vale joined him quietly. "It's done," Vale said. Aaron nodded. "Yes," he replied. Then after a pause, he added, "But this is not the end." Leo arrived, holding new reports. We are already receiving messages from other systems. Some want alliance. Some want protection. Vale smiled slightly. And some still fear us. Aaron looked at the galaxy spreading before them. So we show them, he said calmly, that fear is not necessary anymore. The fleet slowly began to change formation. No longer a war machine. Something new. A guardian force. And far across the galaxy, species watched in silence. The exiled humans had returned. They had fought. They had won. But most importantly, they had changed everything. From exile to conquest. From survival to power. From war to order. Humanity now stood at the center of the galaxy. Not as destroyers. Not as rulers. But as the beginning of a new era.